It's really gaining prominence now, this whole idea, the Ark of the Covenant. My name is Harry MOSKOFF. I've been doing this for over 15 years, maybe 20 years. It started out by looking for where the temples were located on the Temple Mount, the proper location. And then it started to go underneath the Temple Mount, and that's how I started to get very, very interested into where the Ark of the Covenant is. When I wrote this book, the Ark Report, about 10 years ago also. And that was very well accepted. The Secret of the Century. We also made a movie, which won an award right over here, the Gold Remy Award. I produced that movie based on this idea of finding the Ark, and it's a science fiction movie, but it was around the same idea that, it's underneath the tunnels of the Temple Mount. So I did all this research where the tunnels are. There's over 50 tunnels underneath the Temple Mount. Which tunnels and how we got there, using topographical evidence and archaeological evidence. It's a whole theory of where the Ark is and where the temples were based. We see that in the Rambam, Maimonides. He writes in chapter 4, I believe, of Hilchos Beis Mechira, the laws regarding the chosen house. So he writes there specifically that when King Solomon built the temple, he had a blueprint that was handed down through David, his father, and other prophets, that there should be a secondary chamber directly underneath the Holy of Holies. And in that chamber, it has gold floors, and it was, in fact, according to my theory and the Malbim and others, the Ark was actually descended. It was actually through a chain, through a mechanism, like a pulley, going down and descended into this chamber. They placed it underground at the end of the First Temple era, about 37 years before the destruction of the First Temple. It wasn't even being threatened at the time. It was lowered. So the only people that knew were the king and the high priest and a bunch of other priests that, over here, that helps carry the Ark. It was only the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, that goes once a year on Yom Kippur. Wow, there's no Ark, He still has to do his duty, right? He has to bring the incense, etc., sprinkle the blood and all that, but in the place where it was, in the exact place where it was, but underground. Because if it wasn't there, like directly beneath, then the Kohanim, the priests, we wouldn't be able to do our duties. It says that has to be there, and the Mizbeach, the sacrificial altar. Both of them have to be there. This is in Zvachim, Tractate Zvachim, in order for the temple service to be carried out. Machon HaMikdash, which is the Temple Institute, in terms of educational value, absolutely. We're looking for the same things. I believe they also think that the Ark is underneath the Temple Mount. I think that they believe it's right underneath the Dome of the Rock. My novelty is that it's actually not there. The temples weren't there. Also, the big sages, the Arizal and the Maharsha, they all say that the temple couldn't have been right on top of the Dome of the Rock for various reasons. They cite a verse in Micha and Yirmiyahu saying that no, it can't be there. It's a plowed field. It has to be in an open space. So that Zion will be a plowed field. And this theory is there is nothing on top. So yes, there's something called the Dome of the Spirits, which is on the north side. He holds that the Holy of Holies is right there. I don't hold that theory just because originally, if you go by the original topography of Mount Moriah, so it was already going down. It was already a valley at that point. That the foundation stone, everything is actually not right underneath the Dome of the Rock, but further to the southwest, closer to the western wall. Here, it's definitely centered in the right spot, according to the Mishnah, etc. Not in the very middle of Har HaBayit, of the Temple Mount, but a little bit off. So we're working with that theory. There's another theory that goes to the south, that's where the fountain is. That's where it is. That's where the dome, not the dome, the foundation stone. In '67, and then again in 1981, the rabbis, Rabbi Getz and other rabbis. It started off with Rabbi Gorin in '67 after the Six-Day War. So now, Israel had sovereignty. We still do, but we were able to do whatever we wanted. And so they did dig into tunnels in what's called Warren's Gate. I have the stories in here. Fascinating stories. And they went in, and then they did it again in 1981 during the Second Lebanon War, or right before it. And they started to go into this spot, Warren's Gate. He actually says, Rabbi Getz, that he thinks he saw the ark itself. I'm not sure if that's exactly what happened, but maybe he saw something golden, and he was close to getting in. But the Arabs found out about it. Teddy Kollek, at the time, the mayor, leaked it out, unfortunately, and could have been, he was almost lynched by the Arabs. But then the wall there into the Temple Mount, so they sealed it up. And but sure, yeah, there's over 50 tunnels underneath the Temple Mount. The real thing that sparked this whole thing off was a book written by Meir Ben-Dov, who's an old archaeologist, one of the first archaeologists that started, excavating on the south, the Ophel area, the southern part of, City of David. And he was also excavating at the Temple Mount itself for a while. I think this is 1981, 1984, in that area. And he writes that he discovered a tunnel that my ancestors used in the Herodian temple when a Kohen would be impure. So he would go down this tunnel underneath the Temple Mount, underneath the rock, literally all the way to the southern exit, and then go into a ritual bath, into a mikveh over there. So they found that tunnel. And I actually also found it's underneath the monumental staircase, what's called in the Davidson Park. I don't know if you've been there. But if you look down and you go where you're not supposed to, and I was completely by accident. I went over there with a tour group, and of course my wife is screaming to me, "Oh my gosh, there's security, they're all running." Every archaeologist who holds his salt has been arrested at least once. and there's no question about it. You have to be willing to take risks, But I was able to see the opening, which is incredible, where these priests 2,000 years ago went out and went into, I was there actually, and went into, by accident, into this area. So that's one tunnel that goes, if you follow it all, it's sealed in the middle. But if you follow it all the way through and you go up, we'll know exactly where the temple stood. And it says right there in the Talmud, the different, exactly the way it's shaped. It's not like you think, when you see the ark depictions, this was 1.5 cubits wide and 2.5 length. And it says exactly over there in the Talmud what fit inside and what isn't. So for sure the staff did not go in. All of the different things that are in the chamber, like the manna, the jar of manna, and the anointing oil, none of those things actually went in the ark. They went outside. So the only thing that was in the ark were the stone tablets, the first and second, like the broken ones as well, and the scroll that Moses wrote. Everything else couldn't fit. The ark itself is a little bit more theoretical just because it's been out of sight for 2,700 years, So people have said it's just a legend, but it was never really lost. Raiders of the Lost Ark. And it was really it's just missing, hidden.